Welcome to F for Forensics, the podcast where we dive deep into the bits and bytes of the digital world.
Good to be back.
So you've brought us sources today, looking at something absolutely foundational, I'd say. Forensic imaging. It's really the bedrock, isn't it, for almost any digital investigation?
It truly is, yeah. If you don't get this first step right, well, everything that follows can be questioned.
Right. Your analysis, your findings, potentially useless in court.
Or worse, inadmissible.
Exactly. And the sources really hammer this home. They call it the digital crime scene tape,
That's a good way to put it.
the chalk outline, the fingerprint dust. But for hard drives, phones, servers, it's capturing that scene before anyone touches anything.
Because if you mess it up at this stage...
Yeah, the whole investigation could be compromised. That physical crime scene analogy really works, actually.
It does. It highlights that need for precision, for preservation, just like in the physical world.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Let's unpack what forensic imaging actually is.
Right.
Why it's so critical for capturing that digital scene properly. And importantly, how it's done right. And maybe touch on some ways it can go really, really wrong.
Understanding the how and why is key for anyone relying on digital evidence.
Definitely. So let's jump in. Forensic imaging. What are we really talking about? It's not just hitting copy-paste, right?
Oh, definitely not. That's a common misconception. Forensic imaging is way more thorough.
How so?
It's a bit-by-bit copy, sector by sector. You're essentially making an exact duplicate of the entire storage device.
Like every single one and zero.
Every single one, from the absolute beginning of the drive to the very end. And writing it exactly as found onto a new, clean destination, usually an image file or another drive.
So it's not just grabbing the files I can see in, like Windows Explorer.
No, far from it. That's the crucial bit. A normal copy gets active files, the stuff the operating system currently points to.
Okay.
A forensic image gets everything. Active files, sure. But also deleted files, things the OS has marked as deleted, but the data's still there.
Until it gets overwritten.
Exactly. And it gets the data remnants in slack space.
Like space. Remind me.
That's the unused bit at the end of a file's allocated block. Sometimes fragments of old data are just sitting there.
Right. If a small file is saved in a bigger chunk.
Precisely. And it captures the unallocated space areas marked free, but potentially full of previously deleted file data.
Wow.
Plus really critical stuff the user never sees, like partition tables, and for Windows, the MFT records.
MFT, what's that stand for?
Master file table. Think of it like the librarian's card catalog for the whole drive.
Okay.
It holds vital info metadata about every file and folder. Name, size, timestamps, permissions, and crucially, where the data actually lives on the disk. Imaging gets that entire catalog.
The source is called capturing all this, the whole enchilada.
Huh. Yeah, that fits. It really is the whole thing.
A perfect digital clone, essentially, every byte.
That's the goal.
And once you have this perfect clone, you need proof, right? Proof it hasn't been altered. That's where hashing comes in.
Absolutely critical, yes. Before you even start imaging, you calculate a cryptographic hash of the original drive.
Like a digital fingerprint.
Exactly like that, unique to the data. Then, after imaging, you hash the image file you just created. If those two hash values match perfectly, you've got mathematical proof your image is an exact copy, bit for bit.
Verification.
And that verification is, as the sources say, absolutely critical for court. Without it, the image is questionable.
Which leads directly to that golden rule in digital forensics.
Never work on the original evidence.
Always work on the image. Why is that so absolute?
Because interacting with the original device in almost any way can change it. Booting it up, plugging it in, even just browsing files in a normal OS.
What changes?
Timestamps can update, temp files get created, system logs change, all sorts of subtle alterations happen automatically.
And that destroys the integrity of the original state?
Exactly. You need to preserve that original state to avoid any claims of evidence tampering.
The sources are pretty blunt. Messing with the original is a career-ending move.
And rightly so. If you can't confidently state you preserved the original unchanged. A defense attorney can argue your findings are unreliable because the source was contaminated.
Your whole case crumbles.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, so we need this perfect, verified, bit-level clone. What tools do you actually use for this? Sounds specialized, not your average backup software.
Definitely not standard backup tools. You need forensic-specific software and sometimes hardware.
Like what?
Well, for computer hard drives, tools like FTK Imager are very common. GuyMeasure is popular in Linux environments. Even the basic D command in Linux can do it.
DD.
Yep.
Powerful, but dangerous if you mistype.
Very dangerous. The disk destroyer, some call it. You need precision. Then there are commercial suites like DFIR or X-Ways Forensic.
And for phones, it's different, right?
Totally different. Mobile devices need specialized tools. Things like Celebrate UFED or the mobile version of DFIR. They handle the specific file systems and access methods on phones.
But okay, regardless of the software, there's one piece of hardware that's always mentioned. Absolutely essential.
The write blocker.
Yeah.
100%. Non-negotiable.
Tell me about that. What does it do?
Think of it as a one-way street for data. Hardware write blockers, like those from Tableau or WipeTech, let you read data from the suspect drive. But they physically, electronically prevent any data from being written back to that drive.
So it protects the original evidence from accidental changes.
Exactly. Even if your forensic workstation's operating system tries to, say, write a log file or update an access time on the connected drive, the write blocker stops it cold.
So without one, connecting a suspect drive could contaminate it instantly.
It absolutely could. The OS might make changes automatically before you even click anything. It's a huge risk.
And this isn't just for big computer hard drives, is it?
Yeah.
The sources mentioned any storage media.
Any.
Yeah.
You have to assume anything that stores data might try to write when connected. A USB thumb drive.
Write blocker.
An internal SATA drive you've removed.
Write block.
Even something old. Like, say, an ancient flip phone.
Really? Even that?
Even that. There was a great story in the sources about imaging an old flip phone in a harassment case.
What did they find?
Crucial MMS messages, stuff that was key to the whole investigation. It just shows, every byte counts, even the ancient ones.
That's amazing. You think digital forensics is all high-tech laptops, but a simple flip phone?
The principles are the same. Preserve the original, get a complete copy. Doesn't matter if it's cutting edge or a museum piece. Evidence is evidence.
Okay, so let's shift to the payoff. How does this incredibly careful process actually help solve cases? The sources had some compelling examples.
Yeah, some really good ones. There was one about a suspect who thought they'd covered their tracks online.
How so?
Visited some, let's say, problematic websites, then carefully cleared their browser history afterward.
A classic digital cleanup attempt, like wiping fingerprints.
Exactly. But completely useless against a proper forensic image. The investigator imaged the laptop hard drive. And even though the history was gone from the browser interface, the data remnants were still there, in unallocated space, in leftover browser cache files.
So they could recover proof of the visits.
They could. By carving through that space on the image, they found artifacts showing visits to dark web marketplaces.
Wow. And what tied it to the suspect?
The timestamps on those recovered artifacts matched up perfectly with VPN logs the suspect was using.
The connection.
That correlation made the case. It showed the suspect accessed those sites at those specific times, led straight to a conviction. It really shows how imaging is the gift that keeps on giving. Data they thought was deleted comes back.
That's incredible. The image as a time machine for lost data.
Pretty much.
I was also really struck by the case with the massive RAID 5 server. That sounds like an imaging nightmare.
It's definitely complex. RAID arrays spread data across multiple drives.
For speed or redundancy, right?
Usually, yeah. But you can't just image the logical array directly if you want forensic soundness. You have to image each physical drive in the array individually.
Okay, so you get separate images of each disk.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then you use forensic software to virtually rebuild the array from those images. The software understands the RAID level, the stripe size, all that.
And it reconstructs the file system.
Exactly, as it existed on the live server. And in that specific case, from the sources, after they did all that,
they found something good.
They found financial fraud documents. Hidden.
Hidden where?
Deep inside a hidden partition on that server. Something the suspect either didn't know was there or maybe just forgot about. The full image revealed it.
That just nails the point that the image doesn't lie, doesn't it?
It really does. Even complex setups or attempts to hide things, the bit-level image captures the objective truth of what's on the media at that point in time, like a digital truth serum.
Okay, we've heard the success stories. But let's look at the flip side. The disasters. Digital forensics must have its horror stories.
Oh, absolutely. Plenty of ways this can go wrong.
What are some of the really bad mistakes highlighted in the sources?
Well, the absolute huge monumental no-no, the one that makes experienced examiners shudder, is accidentally imaging over the original evidence.
Wait, how? How does that even happen?
Usually human error, rushing, not paying attention. The source described a scenario. A tech got the source and destination drives mixed up.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Source drive is the suspect's evidence. Destination is the blank drive you want to copy to. They accidentally set the suspect drive as the destination.
And cloned onto it, wiping the original evidence.
Permanently, gone forever. Cloning their own blank drive, or worse, another piece of evidence right over the top of the crucial original data.
Oh my God, my stomach just actually dropped. That's it, isn't it? Career over.
Pretty much. There's no coming back from destroying the primary evidence like that. Worst case scenario.
Okay, besides that catastrophe, what are other less dramatic but still damaging mistakes?
A big one is simply failing to document the imaging process properly. Forgetting to record the hash values, the verification step we talked about, or not noting down exactly which tool, which version was used, or messing up the start and end times. Little details that matter hugely.
But if the image itself is good, why is the paperwork so critical?
Because court. The defense will scrutinize your process. If you can't produce a clear, accurate log showing you followed procedure, used a write blocker, verified the hashes,
they attack the process.
They will shred you, as one source put it. They'll argue the evidence could have been altered, that the process wasn't sound, your findings might get thrown out.
Makes sense. The technical part needs the administrative part to back it up.
Totally. Other basic things. Setting the wrong date and time on your forensic computer, that messes up timestamps and reports.
Right.
Or just physically mixing up cables or labels for the suspect and target drives, which leads right back to that nightmare scenario of overwriting.
The sources had that great pro tip. Label everything like you're working a bomb squad.
It sounds dramatic, but in court, sloppy work can blow up in your face. Meticulous labeling, detailed notes. That's your defense. Treat every step with that level of care.
Label like a bomb squad. I'll remember that one. Okay, so we've seen the pitfalls. Let's wrap up by focusing on the positive. The best practices. The wisdom direct from the trenches for getting imaging right.
All right, the essentials. Rule number 1, always worth repeating. Always use a hardware write blocker, period.
Got it. Non-negotiable. What's next?
Second, capture multiple hashes. Don't just rely on one algorithm like MD5. Calculate SHA-1 and, if possible, SHA-256 as well.
Why multiple?
It just provides stronger, more robust proof of integrity. If all hashes match between the original and the image, it's much harder to challenge. Redundancy builds confidence.
Okay. Multiple hashes.
Third, take photos. Lots of photos. Document the physical device, its condition, the ports used, serial numbers, the connections you make. Everything.
Visual proof.
Exactly. It provides context and corroborates your written notes if questions arise later, before, during, after.
Makes sense. Fourth,
document everything. We hit this as a pitfall, but as a best practice, it's key. What tool, what version, start time, end time, any errors encountered, who was there. Every single detail matters.
This all feeds into that chain of custody idea.
Which is point 5. Store your images securely and maintain a clear, unbroken chain of custody. Document every time the evidence or image changes hands. Who had it, when, why. Protects against tampering allegations.
These steps build that wall of trust around the evidence. Now, there was a bonus tip in the sources. Something beyond the disk image itself.
Yeah, this is a good one, though maybe more advanced. If the device is on when you encounter it, capture the volatile memory, the RAM, before you image the disk.
RAM, live memory. Why is that important? Isn't the hard drive the main thing?
The drive holds the stored data, yes, but RAM holds what's happening right now. It's volatile, gone when the power's cut.
So what kind of stuff is in RAM?
Potentially gold. Logged in usernames, passwords maybe, decryption keys for currently unlocked encrypted drives, active network connections, unsaved documents, live chat messages, stuff that might never have been written to the disk.
Whoa, so it's like catching the system in the act, seeing its live state.
Exactly. Disk imaging shows the past, what was stored. RAM capture shows the present, what is running. It can be an absolute goldmine, providing context or evidence you simply won't find on the disk image.
That's a fantastic tip. Adds a whole different layer to capturing the scene.
It really does. It's about getting the fullest picture possible.
Okay, so let's pull this deep dive together. Forensic imaging. It's the absolute foundation. Creating that perfect, verifiable, bit-for-bit clone. Capturing everything active, deleted, hidden data.
Using the right tools, crucially a write blocker.
Right. Never working on the original. Documenting meticulously. And maybe even grabbing that live RAM data first.
It all comes down to integrity.
As the sources hammered home. Without a solid image, you really have nothing.
All your analysis depends on the quality of that initial capture.
Well, this has been fascinating. And it sets us up perfectly for our next deep dive in F for forensics, where we'll talk about forensic failure.
Learning from mistakes. Equally important.
Definitely. So if you found this look at imaging useful, make sure you subscribe to F for Forensics wherever you get your deep dive.
So you don't miss the failures episode.
Exactly. And hey, leave us a review if you can. It helps others find the show. You can also follow us on social media. We're at F for Forensics.
And remember that key takeaway? When in doubt, image it out.
It's always better to have captured too much than too little, right? Especially when you think about all that potentially crucial data hiding in deleted files or unallocated space.
Makes you wonder what's lurking in the forgotten corners of everyday devices.
It does. Something for you to ponder. Stay curious, stay critical. We'll catch you next time on F for Forensics.